Welcome back to the World According to Briggs. Today we're diving into the murky waters of the least improved states in the US. Now, these aren't always the worst states we got, at least yet, but some are heading there at a pace that makes you want to clutch your moving boxes. Whether it's rising crime, terrible infrastructure, unaffordable housing, or just the general government dysfunction, these states seem to be allergic to progress. So today we're looking at the 10 states that seem to be getting worse every year. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Oregon. Oregon was once a postcard-perfect blend of tree hugging, beer drinking, and hipster hiking. It was a paradise. Portland used to top every best cities to move to list, like we just talked about in a recent video. It had that magical mix of urban cool, outdoor beauty, and just the right amount of smug tree hugging. Now it's a poster child for how a progressive dream can trip over its own beard, stumble into Casa Diablo, and land face first in a pile of policy failure. Let's talk about the homelessness. It's not just bad, it's jaw-dropping. Especially in Portland, where tents and tarps line entire streets like some sort of makeshift campground sponsored by municipal neglect. Parks that used to host families and dog walkers are now tent cities. Sidewalks double as shelters. Underpasses are packed. Meanwhile, lawmakers are still arguing over buzzwords and pilot programs, while the average resident is stepping over needles and watching their car get broken into for the third time this month. Property crime off the charts. And many small businesses, especially downtown, have decided it's easier to give up than keep replacing shattered windows. Going over this again, we just talked about it. In case you saw that video, I'm sorry, but it goes on this list. And then don't even get us started on the housing market. Oregon's notorious zoning gridlock means building a new home takes longer than a Ken Burns documentary. Supply is down, demand is up, and prices? Let's just say the average one-bedroom in Portland will cost you more than a four-bedroom in Boise, Idaho. Oh, and let's not forget the ever-rising property taxes that make homeownership feel like a punishment for sticking around. And then there's the wildfire season, which now is just another season, sending entire regions into smoke-filled chaos every single summer. Between that and the growing political division, Oregon's crunchy granola dream has gone stale. People aren't just frustrated, they're packing up U-Hauls and heading out. U-Hauls are busy here. Number 9, Illinois. If Illinois had a family motto, it would be, at least we're not just Chicago. Oh, wait. Because once you take the Windy City out of the equation, the rest of the state looks like it's slowly dissolving into cornfields, Dollar Generals, and budget shortfalls. Southern and central Illinois are full of small towns that feel like they're hanging on by a thread, and that thread was probably outsourced to Indiana. The exodus is very real. In the last few years, Illinois has lost over 100,000 residents. And it's not because of the winters. People are running from sky-high property taxes, a pension crisis so bad it should come with a trigger warning, and a political culture so shady it makes New Jersey look like a model of civic virtue. Illinois has had 4 governors go to prison since the 1970s. That's not a political statistic. That's a Netflix series waiting to happen. And while everyone's focused on Chicago's crime rate, because yes, it's bad, don't sleep on Rockford, East St. Louis, or Peoria. These places are facing their own crime waves, economic struggles, and underfunded everything. Infrastructure held together by prayers and potholes. Schools, many are underfunded, understaffed, and overcrowded. And the state legislature in Springfield, about as effective as a screen door on a submarine. Illinois is a state that keeps promising a comeback, but it feels like they just repainted a burning house at this point. Pretty sad. But living here full-time is becoming a harder sell every single year. Now, I've been to Chicago several times over the last few years. It's bad. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of other places, but everyone just has this image of Chicago because of what they hear in the news and the high murder rate and all that other stuff. We've been over this before, but there's smaller cities that have higher crime rates, but if you look at the total murders overall, yeah, Chicago wins because they got like the most people. I mean, New York City and Los Angeles have more people, but they seem to hold it together a little bit better. Number 8, New Mexico. Yes, New Mexico. We never talk about them enough, and we really should, because New Mexico sort of sucks. New Mexico should be amazing. It's got desert landscapes, artsy towns, low property prices, and a unique blend of culture. But somewhere along the line, the land of enchantment turned into the land of disappointment, despair, and ugliness. It regularly ranks at the bottom in education, healthcare, public safety, not great. Albuquerque has one of the highest violent crime rates in the nation, and that spills into the surrounding areas. Meth, fentanyl, those are major problems, and the local law enforcement agencies are stretched thin. Combine that with a shaky economy, limited job opportunities outside a few metro areas, and an education system that feels like it's stuck in detention. And you get a state that's losing more young people than it can replace. Number 7, Louisiana. Every year, Louisiana manages to stay in a tie with Mississippi for the most grim state rankings. Education, poverty, crime, infrastructure, you name it, probably the bottom 5. And unlike its food, the trajectory isn't exactly spicy. New Orleans has seen a post-COVID surge in crime and homelessness. They get them both. Like they're double dipping in suckage. And the rest of the state is feeling the pressure of an economy overly reliant on oil and gas, which isn't exactly a growth industry these days. Plus, hurricanes and flooding have become more frequent and more destructive thanks to climate change. Public services are underfunded, healthcare is subpar at best, and many small towns are drying up economically. It's a state with a ton of cultural richness and resilience, but the day-to-day realities for many residents are becoming tougher and tougher, not easier. Yeah, it's a slow slide. I mean, they got hit with Katrina years ago, and that devastated the city. They've never fully recovered, and when they get a little bit better, something happens, they just go down again. It's an ongoing cycle with pretty much all Louisiana, not just Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Number 6, California. Now, before you come at me with a pitchfork made from recycled bamboo and organic hemp rope, yes, California has jaw-dropping coastlines, year-round sunshine, and more avocado toast than makes sense. It's got national parks that look like movie sets, and a lot of times they are, a coastline that makes postcards jealous, and enough creative energy to power a fleet of Teslas. But none of that changes the fact that for the average resident, California is becoming downright unlivable. It's kind of sad. I'm one of the people that left. Just got too expensive. That was my problem. And the schools were overcrowded. I don't like that either. I had kids at the time that were going to high school, middle school, and one in elementary at the time. All 3. Woohoo! The middle class, practically an endangered species in California. You either make $300K a year from coding apps for vegan dog food delivery, or you're choosing between rent and groceries. The dream of home ownership, it's not a thing anymore, at least for most people. The median home price for a modest fixer-upper in many parts of the state will have you questioning your own sanity and Googling how to live in a van. And that's assuming you can find a parking spot for said van that doesn't come with a hefty fine or a side of police harassment. That goes on a lot there. Cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles have turned into high-cost paradoxes. $1 million real estate with sidewalks full of tents. Public transportation is either non-existent or laughably inconvenient unless you live in the exact neighborhood that the train's going to. Want to drive? Get ready to donate a year of your life and your lungs to smog and exhaust. And the fun doesn't stop there. Oh no. Let's not forget the trifecta of natural disasters. Wildfires that could torch your house, droughts that make showering feel like a luxury, and earthquakes just waiting to ruin your insurance premiums. Mix that with taxes that make your paycheck weep and a rising sense of urban chaos, and you've got yourself one heck of a state-shaped contradiction. It's no surprise that Californians are fleeing faster than a surfer spotting a shark fin. They're packing up, heading to Texas, Arizona, and Idaho, anywhere that offers space, sanity, and a lower price tag. The Golden State still shines, sure, but for a lot of folks, that shine feels more like a warning flare. Now, it's interesting. Everyone complains about Californians moving to Arizona, Idaho, and all this. A majority of the people that will move to those states are really conservative. Most people forget that, Half that state, the eastern side and a lot of the northern part of the state, that's very red, Republican, conservative. It's just there's so many people in the San Francisco metro area, Los Angeles, San Diego, that's where I should say a lot of the Democrats and liberals are. So those people tend to move to Washington and Oregon or someplace or Colorado. But Idaho, Texas, Arizona, you're getting mostly the Republicans. So quit complaining. They see things the way you do. Number 5, Mississippi. Let's be honest, Mississippi hasn't exactly had a golden age lately, and it's not likely they're working overtime to improve things. It's one of the poorest states in the country, with the worst healthcare access, a crumbling education system, and some of the most outdated infrastructure you could find in a civilized society. The Jackson water crisis made headlines, but it wasn't a fluke. Aging systems are failing across the state, and the funding isn't exactly pouring in. Meanwhile, brain drain continues as young people leave in search of better opportunities, never to return except for the holidays and family funerals. Crimes on the rise in places like Jackson, and even small towns are dealing with the effects of poverty and underinvestment. If Mississippi doesn't reverse course soon, it won't be just getting worse every year. It will be in the running for the worst state overall. Number 4, Missouri. Missouri used to fly under the radar in a lot of ways, in good ways too. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. Affordable housing, decent job markets in major cities, good old Midwestern charm, and just enough weird weather to keep you humble. It was the type of place where you could raise a family without needing a trust fund or Xanax. But somewhere between budget cuts, political grandstanding, and a general, meh, we'll fix it later attitude, Missouri started sliding in the wrong direction, and now it's tumbling fast. Take a closer look at St. Louis and Kansas City. Once anchors of regional pride, they're now case studies in urban frustration. Kansas City has its charms, but crime and homelessness are on the rise, and parts of the city are caught between over-policing and underfunding. St. Louis, it's dealing with the population loss, infrastructure failures, and a homicide rate that makes national headlines every single week, mostly for the wrong reasons. Leaders in both cities keep promising change, but it feels more like political musical chairs than actual progress. Then there's the rest of the state. The vast rural stretches that make up most of Missouri, these areas are getting hit even harder. Hospitals are closing, broadband is a myth in some places, and the nearest grocery store might be 40 minutes away unless you count Dollar General. Schools are fighting to stay open with teacher shortages worsening. Some districts have resorted to 4-day school weeks, not as a perk, but as a last-ditch survival move. Meanwhile, state lawmakers seem more interested in headline-grabbing bills about bathrooms and book bans than actually improving roads, schools, or public health. Missouri still has potential. It always has. But if it doesn't course correct soon, it's at risk of becoming a cautionary tale instead of a comeback story. And people start ranking it over there with Louisiana, Mississippi, and West Virginia. Number 3, Ohio. Ohio, the Buckeye State. Once the heart of the American dream, with its factories, football, and middle-class promise. But these days, Ohio feels more like a cautionary tale than a comeback story, a lot like Missouri, a state stuck between nostalgia and not knowing what to do next. Manufacturing jobs have disappeared like your uncle when everyone starts cleaning up for Thanksgiving, and while cities like Columbus are trying to reinvent themselves with tech or higher education, much of the state still feels like it's living in a post-industrial twilight zone. Young people are fleeing small towns like Lima, Marion, and Portsmouth because jobs are scarce and hope is even scarcer. Opioid addiction have ravaged this entire region. Infrastructure is crumbling, and the weather, let's just say, if gray skies were a resource, Ohio would be richer than Texas. Even the political climate is exhausting, wildly polarized, and hyper-focused on national headlines instead of fixing real problems like public transit, education, and keeping hospitals open in rural areas. Ohio used to be America's family state. It's where families went, they raised good people, and they lived in good neighborhoods. Now it's just flatlined. Number 2, Kentucky. Kentucky's got bourbon, horses, and some of the prettiest rolling hills east of the Mississippi. But don't let the scenic drives fool you. Life for a lot of Kentuckians is getting harder, not easier. The state has been sliding backwards in ways that are hard to ignore. Let's start with healthcare. Kentucky consistently ranks among the worst in the nation for healthcare outcomes. Heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and smoking rates are sky high. And access to care in rural areas? Good luck. You might have to drive an hour just to get a checkup, assuming your local clinic hasn't closed yet. And that's another problem they're facing right now. A lot of these clinics in rural areas have decided they're on borrowed time, and some have closed and some will continue to close here in the next few months. The economy isn't doing it many favors either. Coal country hasn't recovered, and outside of Lexington or Louisville, job growth is spotty at best. Wages remain low, poverty is high, and the education system is struggling under constant budget cuts and teacher shortages. Add in a growing drug epidemic, especially opioids, and Kentucky's looking more and more like a state trapped in a loop of decline. The State House seems more focused on banning books than fixing bridges, and that pretty much sums up the current direction. Some of the things that come out of Kentucky and these other states are banning books. They seem to be hyper-focused on trans kids, just all these things that are just not helping the state. They don't matter other than a few people here or there. If you look at the state as a whole, there's too many states, especially Kentucky, just focusing on these culture war issues. Now, I don't care how you are, on what side of the political spectrum, let's focus on how to fix the country, not how to deal with these moral dilemmas that really are inconsequential to a lot of people. They're not looking at the whole picture. They're not looking at the whole village. They're just focusing on one person. It's weird. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget to subscribe and like and leave me a comment. Maybe watch one of the videos that's suggested at the end. Really helps out the channel. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, West Virginia. Like I always say, I hate it when West Virginia ends up as one of the worst states because I have friends in West Virginia and I love them and they're great people and I love the state. It just sucks. And here we are, number 1. The mountain state has been in steady decline for years, and somehow it just keeps getting worse. Coal jobs aren't coming back. Young people keep leaving, and the state's population is shrinking faster than its economy. You'd think someone would hit the brakes before driving off the cliff, but nope, they're still speeding downhill, taking the curves at 80. Addiction has ravaged communities with some of the highest opioid death rates in the country. Entire counties feel like ghost towns with Dollar Generals and rehab centers as the only booming businesses. Public health, abysmal. Education, barely hanging on. Income levels, among the worst in the U.S. And life expectancy, let's just say it's not a state where you want to plan to grow old gracefully. Even infrastructure projects like roads, broadband, basic services move at a pace that makes dial-up internet look fast. And somehow, with all this going on, the political priorities remain stuck in culture war theater. Instead of fixing what's broken, leaders seem to be interested in fighting imaginary enemies on social media. It's frustrating because West Virginia could be so much more. I truly believe that. This is a place with natural beauty that could rival anywhere. A hardworking population and a heritage that deserves to be honored, not left behind. But until there's real investment in people, education, healthcare, and jobs that aren't straight out of the 1920s, it's going to keep topping the wrong kinds of lists, like this one. I love West Virginia. I absolutely think it's beautiful. I've said in other videos, I think their future is ecotourism, however you want to call it. They've got some of the best hiking, mountain biking, river rafting, kayaking in the nation. And even, I don't know about their snow, I don't know about their skiing. I'm sure they have some ski slopes. It's a mountain state and it does snow. I've never really looked in that. It's not something I'm interested in, but the hiking, mountain biking, zip lining, anything to do with the river, fishing, whatever, kayaking, rafting, it's all there. West Virginia is strong in that department. They need to do something to get more companies in that state to do those types of things. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.